One of the reasons you gamble is to escape financial captivity. In this recording, I will show you only what 1%ers know about gambling. After this discourse, you would have zero desire to gamble. And you're very fortunate to learn all of this from a multi-millionaire. You're very fortunate to learn all of this on a video as opposed to experience. An intelligent man learns from his mistakes. A wise man learns from other people's mistakes. Now it's a choice you have to make for yourself. Are you going to be an intelligent man or a wise man? It's a decision you have to make. The first thing is, the first point, I want you to listen very carefully. The deciding factor, the pivotal moment in everybody's life, especially as a man, you have that fork road, that divergence where you have to make a key decision as to where you go. And any decision you choose decides your destiny for a very long time. So listen very carefully. The first is you are never going to get rich off the lottery. Settle this as a consciousness. In fact, it's not something that needs much convincing to understand that the lottery is a business and the sole purpose of a business is to maximize profits. Look at it this way. As a farmer, if you till the ground, if you work as hard as possible, it's most likely you're going to generate a harvest. Sure, the wind and the weather might come to defeat your efforts. In the grand scheme of things, you are most likely to generate a profit. However, once you turn to the gambling tables, the odds are against you and are in favor of the housekeeper because it's a business. You roll a die, if it turns to the first out of 5 to the uppermost, you get paid 4 times the amount at the dealer's expense. Now, what kind of sane human being would occasionally win in such a system start to defeat him? Exactly. The point I'm trying to highlight is the illusion that gambling is somehow out of their control. They have little to no part. I'm not the person driving the racehorse. I'm not the person in the pitch. There is no way I paid the managers to lose a cup final. So it's totally up to you. You can decide. Is that illusion of freedom created that spoils people hope to an all-time high. However, it is flawed by this logic I just shared. They are taking advantage of the principles of the universe. A diligent hand shall be made fat. Once you engage in a business, it's most likely to generate a profit. The odds are in your favor. Well, I know this guy who got rich off the lottery. Of course, sure, there might be a wind or it was part of the weather that came to defeat the effort. That's all it is. A win for you translates to a loss on their balance sheets. I'm sure they're intelligent individuals watching this discourse. Every single one of you has had business experience or at least worked for someone. You give a customer goods on credit, he doesn't pay, translates to a loss in your balance sheet. So a win for the customer, a loss for you. That's all it is. And in fact, those people are the ones who are hyped by the media. The top 1%ers, the wins, are the ones the media flaunt. Oh, look at this guy. He won a ton of money through the lottery. You too can do it. Stake your tickets now. I want every single one of you to answer me. How many of you know lottery winners personally? Pause this video and think about that question. How many of you know lottery winners personally? Actually know lottery winners personally. Not people you Googled, not people who introduced you to the platform via online community and have some kind of bullshit WhatsApp prediction, if you like, on how to predict the best games. In fact, most people don't sit down and think if this guy had all the right games and his coupons are 100% correct, why does he need $5 from me to facilitate the game? Why don't just put in that $5, do it over and over and over again, and you become a millionaire? Why does he need my $5 in an exchange for the promise of a million? It's something you have to sit down and analyze. Unfortunately, there are times where we distort reality, warp it in and of itself, and make sure it conforms to our beliefs. For instance, there was a time in need of a new device. A cousin of mine convinced me years ago. In China, you can get an iPhone 11 Pro for $20. As ridiculous as that thing sounds, I truly wanted to pay. I truly wanted to pay. Now, looking at it in hindsight, it looks stupid. It's obvious that it's a scam. Once you pay the $20, you pay another $20 for shipping, and something happened on the road. There is a mix up somewhere. It's only a matter of time before you give up. You lose hope completely. It's the same thing with those lottery winners. Whenever you're engaged in that situation, logic goes out of the window. You want to believe in these rules so much, especially when it's like a free lunch. You are giving little to, or you're giving next to nothing in an exchange for the promise of something astronomical, something unheard of. As the great con artist Yellow Kid Wells said, once every single human understands there is no such thing as a free lunch, we would all live in harmony. This is a man who would hand out documents saying free real estate, and at the mention of free, the sucker's eyes will widen up. But you need $4 for registration. That was the catch. Well, at least it's free, and they would hand out thousands of that phony real estate documents, raking in millions for himself. This man was touted to have once sold the Eiffel Tower to one of the largest scrap metal dealer of the time at the time. Anyways, that's beyond the scope of this discourse. But the point I'm trying to highlight, you're never going to get rich off the lottery. You're giving yourself false hope, which leads me to the second. Majority of people engage in gambling to stave off boredom and engender false hope. We've all been there. You place your tickets thinking of the killer profits you would make. Once that happens, your improved quality of life, as well as every single person within your radius, fancying yourself as a messiah, the savior of your clan and bloodline, and how the woman at the adjacent cubicle, that divorced lady, will be impressed at your latest purchase. All of that is excitement in and of itself. That's the same excitement derived from purpose. That's why majority of people are struggling to find their purpose because they need something to get out of bed for. So the feeling purpose should give you is what you recreated via a negative means. Even worse, it's short-lived. You're not necessarily addicted to gambling in and of itself. You're addicted, like every other addiction, to the feeling of the addiction, the dopamine, the gratification in and of itself derived from that activity is enough to keep coming back. So when you say, I quit gambling, nah, until you're ready to give up that feeling, you would always relapse, which leads us to number three. Number three, replace that habit. Like I said, what you're addicted to is the feeling, the gratification, not necessarily the activity. So once you replace that bad habit with a good one, like everything, the time you would spend gambling, go to the gym, read a book, try to develop a skill, become an entrepreneur. My friend, you would learn a lot about yourself engaging in a business, trying to become an entrepreneur, raising a capital. You would learn a lot about perseverance. You learn a lot about discipline, how to keep doing it with little to no results to spur you ahead. Unfortunately, this is something I realized, especially at the infancy of my career. A motivator, an intellectual, if you like, a very intelligent individual, and I would say all kinds of quotes. If you go back to my previous videos, the history of this channel, you notice I cite other people relatively. I'm not distilling personal experience into my videos. So previous content is quotes, things gotten from a book, as well as my intellectual mind, very intelligent and infinite mind. Conversely, those those philosophies has been applied, and from the backlog of pain, information is poured out. I guarantee you, and I've said this on countless interviews, if those professors get to experience the activities pertinent to their philosophies, they are not going to hold it for very long. As a man thinketh, what happens when your desire don't materialize after 6 months, 8 months, 12 months, and those people you said, check me out in 14 years or 2 years, and they're the Mercedes, and guess what? You're still working. What happens then? After every single person you made audacious statement to, and you're making progress, they have this semblance of knowing every single thing about your life, and you're still trying to figure everything out. What happens then? Your addiction has opened up a gold mine for you, learning experience. So it's time to make lemonades. The time you spent engaging in those negative activities should become profitable, should become productive. Do something that gets you out of your comfort zone. Get a goal. Try to recreate that feeling, that excitement. Unfortunately, most people wouldn't take my advice. Why is this the case? Because it is difficult, relatively. It is easier to stand the queue, get a bunch of tickets, whatever, than doing the hard work, going through emotional pain unimaginable, in order to achieve your desires. It is difficult relatively. A majority of people who would sit there say, well, it's talking shit. I'll go back to the gambling tables. My friend, even if you win, you lose your sense of proportion, which is a whole discourse in and of itself. I'm sure I'll do a separate video on how to manage success, because when you get successful, it's most likely you lose your sense of proportion. You fail to recognize the role luck had to play, people had to play, and all of these coordinated activities to produce that result. You idolize the moment. For instance, if you put on a green shirt to the lottery center, every single thing you did, you would try as much as possible to create that day. It's only a matter of time. You come to the conclusion it was pure luck. Pure luck. Hmm. Guess when that is? When you fucking lost everything. When you've lost everything, then you come to the conclusion. Where's that video? And you return back to identify your goals, find the nudges, look for things that inspire as well as instruct. As always, my friends, it's a pleasure speaking to you. I'll see you when in the next one.